Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Q&A for the San Francisco Independent Film Festival 2025. We are very lucky, very fortunate to have the director, Nada, of the film Anxious with us. Hey, Nada.
Hi everyone, Netta Chowdhury here, reporting from Orange County.
Orange County. Thanks for dialing. You pronounce it Netta.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Forgive me. I'm bad with names, but I will do my best.
I
I'm
appreciate you.
Jason
Thank you so
Wallace. I'm
much.
the programmer, one of the programmers for the SF Indie Fest. And hey, wonderful film.
Thank you so much for your time and above all, putting this fantastic program together for all of us.
Thanks for making your movie. Thanks for finishing your movie.
It's a
First,
whole feat.
first one, right?
It's my
First.
first feature, yes.
So what'd you do before this? Short films,
So I
acting?
actually made a web series that was comparative to a feature length. And after I made that, I thought, what's the thing I want to make next? And I had written Anxious as a television pilot and thought to myself, this is a very specific idea that I have. And would I like to shop it around LA and Hollywood, or am I worried that it'll kind of, will I be happy with the end product that would kind of like come through that? And I just couldn't see myself feeling too happy about it. So I
I'm
thought, let's
laughing. I'm
take it a
sorry. I'm
feature.
laughing
Yeah.
because if you've watched your movie, it kind of makes sense that you would ask those questions to yourself.
Yeah, it just, right? Like you can see that it's such a specific vision. It's set in a town that I grew up in. It has this mix of cultures that I very intimately grew up in, Little Saigon, Little India. And as a like very like American upbringing in Orange County, and so I just was like, I just can't see this like I'm just I love it too much. And so what I decided to turn it into a feature, and that's how I jumped from not really making short films to making my first feature after I made that web series.
And you mentioned you shot in your hometown. Where is this shot? Where is your hometown?
So it's filmed primarily in the city of Garden Grove and Westminster in Orange County, California. It's known as Little Saigon, and then I also filmed in Little India in Orange County.
And not to diverge real quick, you doing okay? Are your family doing okay? Friends doing okay down there with everything
Yes,
down with the fires?
fortunately, there's definitely everybody knows people that have been affected. We know people who have lost their homes, and it's a tough time for everyone. And
Yeah,
so yeah, we're just with heavy hearts, we're keeping
hanging in
on.
there. Yeah, yeah, it's
Thank you
unfortunate.
for
It's a
asking.
horrible
Yeah,
situation. Anyways, I just wanted to say, hope you're doing okay and your family and friends are doing okay out there,
thank you.
because you shot down there, and it's just a fun, wonderful film. I dig it so much, and
Thank you.
I could talk about anything, but let's just start with simple stuff, I guess. Where's the inspiration? I mean, it's definitely a lot of your life in there. It sounds like.
So I decided that I wanted to, after I finished making my web series Unfair and Ugly, I knew that I wanted to explore the internal life of a person that feels as real as their like life on the outside, like how we experience life, how we sit and think about what that person said and how it made us feel. That's an intimate part of being a human being. And I really felt like even if all of our individual experience is invisible to another person, I
Mhm.
really believed it would be universal.
Mhm.
And so I just set on this journey for 5 years to make this film inspired by some of my favorite films like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Amelie, Alice in Wonderland, and I drew from those inspirations widely, deeply, richly, and I crafted this film called Anxious about a woman named Ruby who has an anxiety attack, trips down the rabbit hole of her mind, and meets mean girl versions of herself who take over
Yeah,
her life.
yeah, yeah. It's very clever, very imaginative. Uh, how much of those that inner dialogue is from? I mean, I can relate.
Yeah.
I get it. I see myself in those inner dialogues, that voiceover. How much of that is yourself, or do you hear in yourself?
First of all, thank you. I just appreciate programmers because they have, and everyone that's part of a festival, you have so much to watch, and also like I know you feel the responsibility to watch caringly, and like it's I just appreciate that
I
so much.
appreciate you saying that. That is so
Yeah,
true.
it is sometimes exhausting to just watch a film and like allow that experience to like move through you. So I do want to recognize that
I appreciate that, and I'd
yeah.
like to talk to you more about that. But this is
Yeah.
about you and
Yeah,
anxiously.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so at the I gave Ruby her own family dynamic, her own work life. I gave her her own unique decision making like choices that she makes, her own relatives, her own therapy group, her own wild idea to start a therapy group illegally. But I gave Ruby like the streets I grew up on that I really wanted to capture. I used to bike on those same streets that you see like Ruby running on, you know? So I knew how the shot list would be like to a T.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I gave her all of her inner monologues are my own. Me writing down in the middle of experiencing anxiety during COVID from the loss of my friends passing away. I
So,
would
so
sit,
let me
yeah,
interrupt you just because
yeah,
you inspired me to ask these questions. As a writer, like
yeah,
you sit down to write your script, and maybe then you have the characters kind of write themselves a little bit. But then, are there times when, like, I don't know, like you said, you're in COVID, you're at a party, whatever, and you hear some inner dialogue, and you grab a piece of paper or
yeah,
something? Yeah,
yeah.
and
I
then
would
mix it
take
into
out
the
my
film.
yeah, I took out my notes app on my phone, and I had one note where I just would write down everything related to like what those thoughts
So,
were.
so if I may, because I love, there's so many good lines in this movie too. Like, the feeling she says she has, it's like a fire alarm going off all the time, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
like, is that something that maybe that's an instance of where you wrote it in your app notes and then
Yes.
found a place to insert it later in the script?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. So I am very much like a writer director where a lot of times I visualize a scene and I'll sit down and transcribe it.
Hmm.
So scenes like when you have like this tree of life scene that I wrote, like in my head, I call it the tree of life scene. It's never labeled that in the film, but Rubina, Rye, and Ruby meet under a tree in this forest. And that scene just came to me in my head. Like I just imagined it as if like I was daydreaming, and then I would run and sit down and either write it in my notes app or open Final Draft and try
Right
to write.
on. And then open
So
it up
yeah.
again back at your desk. And did you ever have a struggle with that process? Like, like maybe you had a great line. It's like, where do I put this in the movie?
Yeah.
It doesn't fit, whatever.
Yeah. I think it's like I was realizing that my writing process is a lot like making a quilt, but like in hodgepodge ways. Like you have this piece, you have this piece. And at some point, I have enough pieces that I am like, okay, I have a film here. A lot of times we'll know when the piece comes to me, I'm like, I know this is the first opening scene. I know
All
this
right.
is here. But then there's all these elements like these monologues that I was like, I don't know where these fit yet. But then I go in and I start kind of sewing the patches together.
Yeah, yeah,
I form the quilt,
yeah,
like oh, this monologue would be great
yeah.
here
Wow.
over this bathtub
And, and,
scene.
and you and you and maybe you don't know initially, but then if you go and slide that scene over here, like, oh my God, that's where it's meant to go.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
a puzzle. It's like, oh, this puzzle piece will
yes,
fit in that spot.
yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like a feeling, right? Like there's no wrong answer. It's like emotions. So you don't really know. I could swap monologues somewhere, but it's just like, no, I feel like this makes sense here,
Yeah.
and I'm just gonna go with it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. It's an artistic, emotional feeling that's right.
Yes,
You can't explain
yes.
it to me, but you just know that's where it goes. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I just got to quote some more lines here. Like, life is lived up here in my head. I love
Yeah.
that line.
Yeah.
And
Oh, thank you.
that's all of us, right? I mean, we
Yes.
all have that. I mean, I'm
Yes.
sure there's self-help books. I know of, like, be nice to yourself, or change your inner dialogue or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
Seems like
And
a
I think more
self-help
and more we have more conversation around mental health being like as important as our physical health and how much our mental health actually even impacts our physical health. And so yes, I did when I was writing these lines, there was like this time where I was like, oh my God, I'm like really gonna share my own inner monologue with
Right.
people. It's quite vulnerable to do that,
Good
because
point.
there's always this feeling that it's like it is like letting my own, self out, and
So,
yeah.
so yeah, that's a good point. I mean, was that scary? First time direct, not first time director, first feature film,
Yeah.
but and as an artist, we're always vulnerable, like you just said. So, yeah, how'd you handle that? I
It's
mean, how'd you get
it,
over
it
that where
yeah.
you just like, screw it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah. So I feel like I just the best art I feel like has been some type of expression from the filmmakers, the whole crew, the whole cast, everyone kind of coming together to create some kind of feeling and really committing with such excellence to delivering that to the audience. And I think I just kind of sat and thought like these films make me feel so like they tap into this feeling that is like beyond words about life. Sometimes when you sit and watch a movie, it taps into if this feeling about life. And I was like, if I want to make art that I find meaningful, I have to be willing to be honest in my work. And that can be scary, but how can I ever get to making something that matters to me if I don't, And so it was like about making the choice, even if it was scary. And yes, for sure. When people hear about the film, sometimes they're like, oh, anxious. Like it makes people nervous to hear that someone they know is kind of like admitting that they experience this.
Yeah, yeah.
But the most profound thing that I've experienced is people of all backgrounds in any audience that I've sat with. I can't see a single person in a room that left not admitting that they related
Yeah.
to the film.
Wow.
And that was what I hoped for, which is to say, hey, I like really see you on the inside because I've gone and looked at myself on the inside,
Hmm. Hmm. Well,
And
we
yeah,
we all share
yeah,
that humanness, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, you touched on something. You captured something about that, um,
yeah.
and you captured it really well, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um,
Thank you.
well, let's talk a little bit about filmmaking. I could talk to you for hours about this movie, but people won't watch the whole thing. So more about production. So you talked about cast and crew, delivering excellence and stuff. It's a great production value. Talk a little bit about how you achieved such a good looking film. You said you grew up there, so that kind of helped with the shot list. Maybe you already saw the
Yeah,
shots in your mind's eye your whole life. Um,
yeah.
but there's some good camera work. You have a scene where it's raining in the store, if it's really in the
Yes.
store, right?
Yeah.
Wardrobe, makeup. So let's talk about some of that stuff.
It was um it was the most important thing to bring together the right team. And I really like I'm very intense when I like go through my hiring process. So I'll interview like 20 people a role and and they're always fantastic people, but it's always like looking for the person who this is the thing for them, This is the way it means something to me, it means something to them.
Oh, agreed.
And it's like completely impersonal outside of that to anyone else because I just feel like it was a match for the person that was like, I need to do this film.
Right.
I will, and
Yeah, I like
so
that word match. You find the right crew. It's like a relationship, or it's like dating, if you
yes,
will, and where
yes.
it's not just a an emotionless job.
Yes. And it's such a trust like that goes into it. Like for me, I want to hire the people that I trust so much that I really genuinely believe that they'll do a better job at all of these things that I could have dreamed of.
So
You
how
know?
long did it take you to get your cast and crew together? Because that's.
Yeah, it definitely took a few months. It took a few months to cast and crew. My cast was so cool too, where I actually did some weird things, like I didn't share the whole script with everybody. There was only me that had, and the crew. The crew had complete access to the script, and I had complete access to the script. But all my actors, I gave them all the pages relevant to their character. And I then didn't involve them in Ruby's internal life because at the end of the day, I was like, I don't really believe in a project being all about the main character for every actor. Like they're here to be a whole person.
Mhm.
And that person should feel so real that we could just follow them with the camera. You know, we
Yeah.
could just be like, well, here's Ruby. Oh, we could suddenly follow the dad for days,
Yeah.
you know? And so they were really, really wonderful and trusted me, and they researched for months so that like
Yeah.
they brought so much to their
Yeah.
characters that I added
Or,
to the script.
or like if I may, the toxic aunties.
Yes. Yes, which so many of them were like ad-libbing and like, you know, they're some of
Where'd
the
you get all those
lines-
people?
yeah,
It's
they're
wonderful.
they were brilliant, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just brilliant. And some of like my favorite lines in the film from our cast are ad-libbed, and it's just all about how brilliantly like they knew their character and just felt like I was so thankful that they trusted me to just go ahead and do their thing, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It was
Wonderful.
for my crew, my God, these people are so talented.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, so
criminal.
okay,
Yeah.
so that was a little bit about casting. Then, as far as
Yeah.
like production, you know, the all the following, the dolly shots, the tracking shots, whatever, through your town, through
Yes.
Little Saigon, whatever. How was that hard to do? Was that guerrilla style?
No, we actually were permitted.
Oh,
I was because I am playing three characters. I was like, we really can't afford to do things guerrilla style and something to be stopped or fall apart. So I was like, I was really insistent that we make sure we have every single permission we needed to be where we were supposed to be. And I tried not to film at locations for the most part that weren't used to having a crew because again, I felt like with me playing three roles, it's some of these scenes we filmed there's like 30 scenes we filmed three times, you know, like that is so much production like coordination that I was like we can't afford like
right.
things to be
A snag or
wishy-washy
slow
with
down. Yeah,
locations. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, that was smart. That was efficient. Pre-planning for sure.
Yes, my first AD and my producer Amira Mertaban, Marissa Vaughn, our first AD, unbelievable, unbelievable. Yeah.
And then maybe your whole crew should be complimented here. So if they're
Yes.
watching, good job, all cast and crew.
Brilliant.
But let me also just highlight wardrobe. I mean, I'm a fan of Sex and the City, and I watch all the
Yes.
other chick flicks too. I just love good romance movies or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. The dresses in here, the wardrobe, man, that had to be fun for you. You had some great
Yes.
looking dresses.
Yes, I had been putting the wardrobe together for 3 years. So I put this together like I scoured hundreds of thousands of costumes to like put together over 60 costumes in the film.
And then what'd you do? Save them, collect them?
I have them, yeah. I keep them for an archive and hope to like kind of bring some into other films and just keep them to display at any event and things like that.
You have some closet space then.
Yeah. It's like packed pretty tightly into some
I mean,
storage
I
bags.
remember like there's some kind of, you know, outrageous
There's some
dresses.
wild ball gowns in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then my a really close friend of mine who is a stylist and creative director came on in the last month and when I was exhausted and helped me finish all the looks. And you might find this interesting, which is that Rubina we changed. Like one of my characters, we completely changed her entire wardrobe in the last month and her character.
For the
And I
whole
was
movie.
and the in the whole movie, and I was actually rewriting her
Huh.
on set, like right before. Sometimes
Huh.
I would have missed a line.
What was the switch? What was the change for?
You know, it was interesting because to prepare for this, I was in acting school for 3 years, just 2 times a week, 3 years, no excuses, all showing up, just practicing the craft, not the characters, just the craft.
Right.
And so when I got closer, I started practicing, like, rehearsing as the characters, and I was like, I do not get this character yet. Even though
Wow.
I've written her on page, as an actor, I'm not there.
And which one was Rubina? What,
Rubina
like
was like the regal, long-haired,
the
like
perfectionist, the perfect one. Okay.
perfectionist.
And then what
Exactly.
was the other
Rye is your nihilistic, kind of like
nihilistic, yeah,
mean
negative,
voice,
right.
and Ruby
Okay.
is our main character.
Yeah.
So Rubina, I was like, I could not click with her no matter how much I rehearse. And then it was when my stylist was like, I don't get her. And I was like, that's right. You don't get her. I don't get her. And I suddenly decided to just write her as an actor. Like I was like, what would be fun for me to play that would be
Ah,
like really, really like I would just have fun. And I think
yeah,
she's funny, you
yeah, yeah,
know?
yeah.
And so that suddenly inspired us to completely change her wardrobe and find like this clueless Cher, like, like,
So maybe wardrobe for those two, it's kind of easier, if you will. I don't want to say easier, but as
yeah,
opposed to all the different styles that Ruby has, are there
yeah.
meanings behind it, or is it just fun?
Yeah, I wanted to tell an emotional story through the
Right.
clothing from beginning to end, and it was like a color story and like this and the biggest meaning for me is that anxiety in and depression and mental health in general are displayed in grayscale in filmmaking, you know?
Mhm.
And I just don't believe I think everybody has these emotions factually. And so it's like we're not gray, we're living our life out here in full daylight,
Oh yeah, how about when you have a depression day when it's full blue skies and sunny day? It's like, how do
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah, and it's exactly the world is still has its color and you're still part of it, even if you don't see yourself or feel that way, you
yeah.
know? I really wanted to show a film about mental health that was full of color and didn't kind of like pity the people dealing with things. Like I actually think they're all really cool, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great approach to this to mental health. Kind of surreal humor. Uh, it really made it accessible, even though some dark and heavy subjects.
Yes.
Suicide,
Yes.
death, whatever, depression, anxiousness. Like I love. I think her interaction with her mom, her past
Yeah.
mom.
Yes.
It's touching. They're in white, and the mom's painting, and a bright, a beautiful. The painting's beautiful. The colors, right?
Yes.
Explain that scene, that meaning of the painting and stuff.
There's this wonderful Syrian artist, Syrian American artist, Zina, and I saw her painting, and I just like it was like early on in me making this film, and I don't even think at the time it made sense why I wanted the painting, but I just immediately felt this painting was something.
Yeah,
And so I asked her, could I include it in my film? And it just was actually like a series of like things that didn't go well. Like we forgot to put the painting in Ruby's room. And I was like, no, no, but this, even though we forgot to put it on the set, in the chaos of us just being busy, right?
yeah,
I was like, this still needs to go somewhere. I
yeah.
know it belongs in the film. And I suddenly had this idea, what if the mom was painting it? I told the actress and she said, Kaveri, she said, I'm a painter. Did you know that? And it's the magic of our actors. She said, I'm a painter. And I said, wonderful. So she actually sketched a version of it in there. It's shown earlier in the
Oh,
film,
okay,
sketching.
okay.
And that's her sketching that. The
Yeah, yeah.
finished painting is from the painter.
Well, it's funny too because
Um,
that finished painting, even though it was made before your movie, it looks like
I
split
know.
personality, split
I
character.
know.
It's
I
like
know. And I think that's something magical about like
filmmaking.
filmmaking.
Yeah, yeah,
You just feel like sometimes like you're just in this place where you get to bring people together and it's magical. Like
yeah,
someone will have written a song and they wrote that song long before you were making this film and
yeah,
suddenly that song has a soulful place in your film.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's just like
that is
magic.
the magic of filmmaking, and that if you just go and kind of put yourself out there and take a chance, then planets align, if you will, sometimes, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes,
right on.
exactly.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Uh, like I said, I could talk to you for hours about this, but we only have time for a few more questions. And I also love. What's the meaning of going to SD video format? The
Oh,
for the group sessions. This
Yeah.
the different
So
video
that's
format.
a fun chat that brings up my relationship with my fantastic editor Tangier Clark. And he like it's funny when I wrote that knowing that I liked her playing a tape back in her head, you
Mhm,
know?
mhm.
And I just think a VHS tape was just like a fun nostalgia. I
Yeah,
know it's not relevant to people today. I know a lot of people don't even know about it.
right.
I just like I know the nostalgia of that grain and like repeat like so I just wanted to include it.
Right.
He read the script and was like, it's gonna be cheesy. I'm so worried, you know? And I was like, you know what, Tangier, I believe you, but I want to try it and I want to try it at our best. So let's try it and execute it fully.
Yeah,
And then I promise if it's weird, we
you'll pull
won't
it
do
off,
it.
right? Yeah.
So he goes in, we're editing, we try it, and he's like, Netta, I think I love it so much that I think we should do the whole scene like this.
Wow.
And so we did. We started editing, and it was like magical, like for
It
us.
is. It works.
And it made us happy. And I said, Tangier, all that matters is that you and I like it,
Yeah.
and we
And
love
maybe
it.
you can't explain why. And like you said, it for me, I think it's not so much that it's VHS or analog or SD.
Yeah.
It's just your placement and timing of it. You know, maybe you could have done it in a different way too, but it's effective for that, kind of sequence or that
Yeah.
stage in the story in her life, whatever.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a choice, and I think it was about like having fun as filmmakers instead of like being like, what will people think? Do they expect from us? It was like,
Hmm.
well, who are we making this film for if we didn't do this to enjoy ourselves
Right.
and have a great time, you
Yeah, I
know?
always feel like, as an artist or a filmmaker, it's like, your first audience member ultimately is yourself, right?
Yes.
And if,
Yes.
if you're digging it, chances are someone else is going to like it too,
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So, well, yeah, you know, like I said, I love this movie. We love it here at SFND Fest. And I think I'm embarrassed to say this, but I got teary-eyed too. Yeah. So with the ending, where they go, what was it? Something about conversations? Maybe
Yes.
have a conversation with somebody,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
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 I mean,
Thank
very
you.
touching.
You're too kind, Jason. And it's not an embarrassment. If anything, it's like such an honor that you like watched and experienced the film and allowed yourself to feel like you're like, I'm gonna just feel what's happening
Yeah.
here. And I think that's just the greatest honor for me.
Oh,
Like I try to think like, when you make a film, you make it almost like quietly with a small group of people. Even if that group of people is 400 people, it's still a small group of people compared to the world,
right.
right?
Right.
And it's like you we have no idea how and what it will mean to anybody, except that we will try to make it mean something to us and
Yeah.
hope that it's felt by whoever watches it. So I think for me, it's very surreal as the film itself, to
Mhm.
watch people like yourself and have a film festival be like, we would like to share it with our
Yeah.
audience here. Like think of like how many things conspire for that to happen, It's
Like you said, the magic of movie making and art, it's kind of like a moment in time that's, I'll use the word lucky.
yes.
It just
Yeah.
luckily
It
comes
is.
together.
It certainly feels exactly like luck,
Uh-huh.
Like that's how it feels for
The
sure.
convergence, all these things happen at the same time to make this creation. Um, but again, just I love the ending of your movie,
Thank
because
you.
I'm kind of a people person, and it's like, maybe the answer sometimes is just have a conversation like we're having here, like
Yeah.
film does for each other, like art brings us together. Just talk to each other, right? Be a better
Yeah.
world.
That when I wrote the pilot and I shared it with a close friend of mine, it was so interesting because she immediately told me, Netta, did you know that I'm anxious?
Mm.
And we are very close friends, and neither of us had ever said anything of the sort to each other. And I think that was that moment for me where I realized like it was very like emotional for me
Yeah.
that as I was working on it, I was like, whoa, it's very like it makes me shake when I'm like, oh, I can't believe that me mentioning that I am doing this project or making this project is opening people up to be able to say that to people they care about.
Yeah.
And I think some people have watched it and said, "Oh my God, I understand my partner or my friend or my sister or my brother or my father more."
Hmm.
And or they're like, I'm this person, I'm that type of anxiety, I'm the perfectionist, I'm the nihilist, I'm and I just it makes me glad that they can relate to like these well-dressed, fabulous anxieties,
Well,
instead of being like embarrassed to admit it.
has it provided, has this, in achieving the finish line with this project, this movie, has it provided any therapeutic benefits to you?
I did for a moment. I was like, maybe I won't be anxious anymore.
Maybe I'm healed. Yeah.
And I did have that moment, but it turned out that it wasn't as simple as that. But I think that's also it's funny that after I made the project, there was kind of that moment where I was like, are those little voices gone? And it was a lot more like the ending of the film where they're still there, but I have learned like I've come a long way in dealing with my own anxiety, and I know I'll have a long way to go.
Right.
And it's personal work that like me working on that actually affects and is good for my relationships in my life if I work on it. So it's been eye-opening. But I certainly had a humorous moment where I was laughing to myself and thought, they're still
Uh-huh.
here, just like in the film.
Right. Well, but you've created a wonderful little film. Congratulations.
You.
Now you can, I mean, you should have a sense of like you can even accomplish more because you finished a feature-length film and a
Thank
good one
you.
at that. So,
You know that I like we're all a little bit bananas because you said you've been working on with since COVID with SF Indie Fest, and so for some reason you keep coming back
mhm.
every year. And for me, when I finished making the film, the first thing I thought was, I can't wait to make another one.
I know. What are we,
And,
insane?
and I immediately started, and that's how you know we are doing things that we love.
Yeah, good point. So what's next? And then we'll wrap it up.
I'm working on my second feature, and if people would like to follow along, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. I will be sharing the process a little bit more along the way. I'm also going to start teaching an online class about filmmaking and
Cool.
everything I've learned about the business. So that's
Yeah,
what's next.
cool. I'll follow you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jason. I'll follow you, and I'm so excited to watch all these interviews that you're putting together.
Oh, right on. Well, that's all the time we have. It's a pleasure meeting you. I hope we get to see each other in person someday, either
Thank
in San
you.
Francisco or down in LA. But in the meantime, good job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the riveting conversation too. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're right on. All right, everybody, that's the end of this Q&A for the film Anxious. Thanks to Anita for joining us here. Catch out more great indie films at sfindy.com. Bye, everybody.